In today's episode, we open a case file from Funnel City.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysart.
Welcome to the Innovation Forge. I'm David Dysart. Tonight, we are opening a case file from Funnel City, a rain-slick enrollment city where admission problems walk in wearing trench coats, clean dashboards, and very expensive explanations. This is the Funnel City Files, a serialized noir mystery about admissions, aid, yield, data, trust, and the student stories hidden beneath institutional numbers. Each episode is a complete case. Each one also pulls Detective Silas Vale closer to the old wound at the center of the metric court, where official truth has a habit of arriving freshly polished and missing a few names. The official story sounds clean. Silas Vale knows clean stories are usually where the dirt starts. So, pull the shade, light the desk lamp, and follow the student trail. The official count is never the whole truth. The Vanishing Admits, Story 1 of the Funnel City Files. Rain came down over Yield Square, like the city had hired it to audit the banners. The admitted student flags hung from the light posts, blue and silver and too cheerful for a night that smelled of whetstone, bus fumes, and old promises. The square below my office glittered with puddles. Each one held a broken version of Yieldshire College. Bent lamps, cracked arches, a smiling mascot with rain running through its teeth. My office sat above a bookstore. It's been closed for 3 years. The sign still said open for good books, which proved signs were liars by nature. Relics of time when truth had more luck than sense. Upstairs, my shelves were full of files, ledgers, and old deposit cards. Not to mention the bad reports, worse reports, and a few reports so clean they ought to have been booked as suspects. On my desk, under the brass lamp, lay an unopened summons from the metric court. Green paper, black seal, heavy enough to make a man feel judged before he read it. Tessa Squirrelore stood by the rain-streaked window with her coat still on. The colorgraph never entered a room casually. She arrived like a sentence that had already been polished to a blinding brilliance. Yieldshire College called again, she said. They called yesterday. They sounded poorer today. That fast. Fear has a short billing cycle. I looked at the summons. Court paper had patience. What is Yieldshire selling? The usual official sorrow. Applications up, admits up, emails open strong, deposits soft. Students losing interest? That's their line. Too clean. Tessa turned from the window. The lamp caught the silver pin at her collar. A quill, folded over a page. Metric Court scheduled a bench review. That got my eyes off the summons. When? 3 mornings from now. The benchmarkee? She nodded. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. That man can benchmark a funeral and praise the attendance trend. He's bringing Count Responsula. Of course he is. Count Responsula, master of open rates and click-throughs. Could make a dead inbox look lively if it twitched once near a subject line. He did not measure understanding. He measured reaction. I took my hat from the peg and left the Metro Court envelope unopened under the lamp. Yieldshire College sat at the north edge of Yield Square. Proud in the way old colleges get proud, when they've forgotten which bills are due. Its main hall had green copper gutters, carved stone vines around the doors, and admissions banners that promised belonging in a few too many fonts.
Who would know?
Inside the conference room, belonging had been replaced by coffee, panic, and a dashboard the size of a chapel window. President Amara Voss sat at the head of the table. Vice President Dorian Pell kept tapping a pencil against a folder marked Fall Class Outlook. Every tap said he wished the folder would take the rap for what's coming, or at least get some kind of faulty confession from it. It didn't even have to be a good one. Anything to shrug and point to that wasn't his own inability. Benchmark Key stood near the wall in a gray court coat, hands folded over a silver cane topped with a tiny bar chart. Count Responsula hovered near the dashboard with a velvet cape, a waxed mustache, and the pleased look of a man who had found a metric that loved him back. Above the dashboard, a click-loon drifted in lazy circles. It was round, bright, and hollow-eyed, with little wings made of notification pings. Every time the screen flashed a green number, the thing puffed up and gave a soft little chime. Open rate, 71%. Click rate, 19%. Event reminder open rate, 82%. Click-loon shimmered and chortled. President Voss opened with the kind of voice used for donors, parents, and rooms where everyone already knows the problem. Detective Vale, thank you for coming on short notice. Yieldshire had a strong cycle, by almost every measure. The press releases have already gone out. Applications rose 12%. Admits rose 6%. Our communication metrics are strong. Our admitted student events were remarkably well attended. And deposits? The pencil stopped tapping. Now 9% from this point last year, Pell said. Count Responsula raised one pale finger. The students were reached. The figures are plain. They opened, they clicked, they saw the message. Seeing a message is not the same as receiving help, I snapped. His smile sharpened. You always did prefer gloomy interpretations. I prefer live students to lively dashboards. Benchmark Key let out a small breath through his nose. Yieldshires peers are holding stronger at this stage. The institution must present a credible account at bench review. Credible to whom? I asked. To the court? That narrows the audience. Usually a mistake. President Voss folded her hands. We believe admitted students are losing interest. They have more options, and perhaps our message is not persuasive enough. The room had polished the sentence until no message remained inside of it. I walked to the dashboard. Click-loon dipped near my shoulder. Its belly was full of green percentages. What did they open? Our admitted student sequence, Count Responsula said. What did they do after opening? They engaged. That's a word people use when the next action is unclear. He bristled. I kept looking at the screen. Who opened? Who acted? And who understood? The silence came down harder than the rain. Pell cleared his throat. We can pull action by deposit status. That tells me who paid after the fact. I asked who understood before they got stuck. Benchmark Key tapped his cane once. The dashboard changed. A set of glass dice appeared in the center of the screen, then became real on the table with a sound like bones in a cup. The yield dice. 6 dark cubes, each face etched with institutional comfort. Strong opens, pure average, last year pattern, event glow, admit volume, general reminder. They rolled by themselves and stopped in a neat row. Strong opens, event glow. Count Responsula smiled. The instrument favors our interpretation. The instrument favors passive management, I said. That is what it does. The dice shivered. I looked at President Voss. I need your message files, portal logs, admit groups, event rosters, financial aid touchpoints, transfer credit records, housing steps, family communications, and any notes from students who asked plain questions and received decorated answers. Pell stared. That's a lot by morning. It was a lot before tonight. You just had nicer charts then. Tessa had the communication files spread across my office floor by midnight. She moved among the pages with a pencil behind one ear and a face that could make a sentence nervous. Read this, she said. Congratulations again on your admissions to Yieldshire College. Your future begins here. Join our community of dreamers, leaders, and scholars. I put it down. She held up another page. Same? Mostly. Transfer version has one added line about bringing your experience to campus. Anything about credit transfers? No. She didn't even need to check again. High aid need version? Same message. One link to aid resources near the bottom, even for non-aid applicants. First generation families. Same message. Parent version has warmer adjectives. Local commuter? Same message. Talks about resident halls. Tessa crouched beside a row of printed emails. Every admitted student got the same treatment with small ornaments. Same congratulations, same event invitation, same deposit reminder, same big feeling, different students, same doorway. Doorway is generous. Same painted wall. The click loon had followed us from Yieldshire. It had wedged itself above my filing cabinet and was glowing each time Tessa found a strong subject line. I threw a paperclip at it. The clip passed through and landed in a coffee cup. A full coffee cup that had gone colder than these students. Open rates stayed strong because the messages sounded important, Tessa said. A student could open them 3 times and still not know what to do next. Tone? Proud, warm, public, written as if a trustee might read it during a meeting. Not as if a student was trying to solve a Thursday. No. And there it was. The cleaned-up public room, hiding the salutation. By 2 a.m, ethereal Logvale had arrived. The ether-bound wore a dark coat beaded with rain and carried no files. They read what the system exhaled after everyone else had gone home. They stood in the center of my office, eyes half shut, one hand resting above a portal mirror. The glass clouded. Lines of pale light rose from it. Each one a student path through Yieldshires admitted student site. Late returns, they said. How late? After midnight, mostly after aid emails, deposit reminders, and event follow-ups. The lights bent and doubled. They came back to aid pages, then cost estimates, then back to aid. Some returned to scholarship terms. Some opened family pages 3, 4 times. Transfer went to credit pages, found general policy, then searched for course equivalency. Local students went to housing, parking, meal plan, and communal life. Event attendees returned to visit page 2 days after the event, then stopped. Stopped because they chose another school? Therial opened their eyes. Some, perhaps. Many stopped at the same dead ends. Near the radiator, a cluster of yieldlings huddled under an old admissions pennant. They were small creatures, all careful eyes and folded wings, each one holding a tiny acceptance letter against its chest. When Ethereals said dead ends, their letters dimmed. Behind them, in the crack between the floorboards, something black and crystalline began to form. An Etruscanite. Early disengagement, hardened into shape. Did not roar, it grew quietly in places where nobody owned the next step, seeping into the very vibe of a place. At dawn, I went to Yieldshires admitted student help desk. It occupied a cheerful corner in the admissions building, under a banner that said, "Say yes to Yieldshire." A student worker sat behind the desk with 2 phones, 3 clipboards, and the spiritual fatigue of a clerk at census hall. Behind him, a line of admitted students waited, each clutching a folder, a parent, or both. I watched before I spoke. Always watch first. Students tell the truth with their shoulders. One boy kept looking at his mother before each question. A girl in a soccer jacket refreshed her portal again and again. A transfer student in a work shirt studied a sheet of course numbers like it might turn into rent money if she squinted just right. The transfer was the one who noticed me staring. "You work here?" she asked. "No, that helps me sleep." She almost smiled, with her mouth at least. Nothing left in her stare. "What are you waiting on?" She held up the sheet. "I'm Maribel Ortiz. I got admitted last month. I like Yieldshire. I like the visit. People were nice." That word can mean many things in admissions. Sometimes it means welcome. Sometimes it means nobody answered the question. "What's the question?" I asked. She looked at the help desk, then at her phone, then back at me. "I just do not know what to do next." And there it was, plain and packaged enough to fit in a coat pocket, heavy enough to sink the official story. "I got emails," she said. "A lot of them. They all sounded excited." "I'm glad they are excited. I need to know if my credits count, what I owe, whether I can still work on Tuesdays, and if the deposit means I'm stuck if the aid changes." "Did you ask?" "I sent the form. Then someone sent me a link. The link said to check the portal. The portal says pending." "Pending what?" She shrugged. "My future, I guess." Dry humor from a tired student. The city had competition. A yieldling stood near her shoe, almost invisible in the reflection of the tile. It was dim and still there. Reachable, that mattered. By noon, Halric, inquisitive, had taken over a records room in the registrar's basement. The querysmith was all elbows, ink stains, and irritation. He had the posture of a man who believed most questions were guilty until properly written. He lined up data extracts on a long table, weighted them with metal clips, and muttered at joins like they had insulted his family. "Your admit file was a stew," he said when I walked in. "Food or evidence?" "Evidence. Bad food." He pointed at the first stack. Leadership compared all admits to all admits last year. Broad status, broad opens, broad deposits, comfort soup. And when you split it up, his eyes lit. Halric liked two things, a clean query and catching someone who had avoided one. High-need admits opened at very high rates, deposits low, portal returns to aid and cost pages high. They were seeking financial certainty. He slapped another stack. Transfers clicked credit pages more and deposited far less. They needed course credit decisions. Another stack. First-generation admits had strong family page traffic, repeated parent portal attempts, and low deposit action after aid notices. Parents were present, confused, and underserved. Another. Local commuters opened event messages, then visited housing and parking pages. The school kept inviting them into a residential store that did not answer daily logistics. Another. Students who attended admitted day had a deposit bump for 48 hours, then flatlined unless they had direct counselor contact. And the rest. Students with clean aid, campus visit, no credit issue, and counselor follow-up deposited close to target. Halric leaned back. The class did not vanish. Yieldchair filed them under one name and stopped looking. Tessa entered with a folder of marked messages. The message plan confirms it. Same cadence for all groups, no barrier logic, no reply path that changes by need. Thuriel drifted in last, quiet as fog. The silent signals match. Late returns are clustered around unresolved decision points. I looked at the wall of evidence. Messages, logs, queries, student words, the yield dice sat in a black pouch on the table. Still trying to roll through the cloth. Outside in the hall, an attrition night had formed along the baseboard. "Time to ruin a clean story," I said. We reconvened at Yieldshire that evening. The conference room had more people than before, which is how institutions show fear. Aid director, registrar, housing lead, visit coordinator, family engagement manager, two counselors who looked ready to either help or resign. President Voss sat straighter. Pell had stopped tapping his pencil and started chewing it. Count Responsola came prepared to defend his numbers. Benchmarkee came prepared to enjoy trouble. I put Maribel's words on the screen. "I like Yieldshire, but I do not know what to do next." No chart has ever enjoyed being followed by a sentence. "This," I said, "is your case." Count Responsola waved a hand. "One student anecdote cannot overturn the communication record." "No. It can tell us where to look. We looked." Tessa placed 6 message samples under the document camera. They were almost identical. The room saw it before she said it. "Your admitted student messaging is warm and generic. It keeps telling students they belong. It does not tell different students how to decide." Ethereal showed the late-night portal trails. The lines curved and returned, then went dark. "These are not students drifting away after indifference," they said. "These are students returning to unresolved pages." Howard put up the segmented report. He had named the columns with the plain cruelty of honest data. Aid uncertainty, credit uncertainty, family process confusion, commuter logistics, visit glow without follow-through, deposit action. Every group told a different story. None of them matched the official one. Benchmarkee leaned on his cane. "The bench review will expect a concise explanation." "Give them one," I said. "You treated admits as one audience. They were not one audience." Count Responsola's face tightened. "The open rates remain strong. Open rates proved the messages were noticed. They did not prove the messages solved anything. The campaign worked. The campaign performed," different verb, I said, throwing a folder of reports onto the table towards him. Clicklin, floating near the dashboard, made an offended little pop. I took the yield dice from their pouch and set them in the center of the table. They rolled without a hand. Strong opens, last year pattern, general reminder. The admissions counselor stared at them like they had seen that trick too many times. I covered the dice with an empty coffee mug. The room felt better at once. President Voss looked at the mug to the evidence wall. What do we do by morning? Stop broadcasting to the whole admit pool as if it has one problem. Build around the barriers you can see. Pell reached for a pen. I pointed to the aid director. High aid need admits get cost clarity first. Plain language, direct charges, grants, loans, remaining balance, timing, and who to call. To the registrar. Transfers get credit evals and a named person. If a course is pending, say what's pending and when it'll move. To housing. Commuters need logistics. Parking meal plans, schedule blocks, campus connection without pretending they live in a residence hall. To family engagement. First-gen families need a parent path and plain words. What the student does, what the family can see, what the family cannot do, and who answers money questions. To the visit coordinator. Admitted stay attendees get a follow-up within 48 hours from someone they met. Warm rooms go cold fast. To counselors. Every segment gets a reply path. No dead links, no pushing to a portal without context. Testa began drafting on the wall screen as they spoke. Her sentences lost their perfume and gained a pulse. Your next step is to confirm what you still need to decide. Here's the cost question. Here's the credit question. Here's the family question. Here's the housing question. Here's who owns it. Therial set signals rules beside the messages. 3 late night return stayed, column. Credit page plus no deposit, transfer outreach. Family portal attempts plus no action, parent guide. Visit attendance plus no action after 2 days, counselor follow-up. Ulrich built the query live. The screen filled with names, not as a public count, as work to be done. Count Responsilar watched with the expression of a man seeing his favorite mirror turned into a window. This will lower some open rates, he said. Possibly. The messages are shorter. Good. Less impressive. To whom? His shocked look was his only response, for once. By 10 that night, the first revised messages went out. Not many, the right ones. A transfer counselor called Maribel Ortiz and gave her 3 answers, 2 honest limits, and 1 appointment. Her credits were not all settled. Her aide still needed a document. Her Tuesday work schedule could fit 2 course options. She did not deposit on the call. That disappointed Pell until I told him to grow up. A decision is not a coin drop. Sometimes it's a person returning to the table because the table finally has chairs. In the hall outside the conference room, the yielding began to brighten. Not all of them. Some remained dim. A few folded their letters and slipped away towards other schools, which was their right. We were solving Yildshire's system, not buying souls. The attritionite along the baseboards cracked in 3 places. It didn't vanish. Crystals rarely do. They wait for neglect to feed them again. At the morning prep for bench review, Yildshire no longer had a clean story. It had a true one, with all the stains and wrinkles that came with it. President Voss stood before the practice panel, voice tight, hand steady. Our prior report overstated the meaning of engagement metrics. We saw admitted students, opening messages, and assumed interest had been sustained. Further review shows distinct barriers by student groups. We've begun segmented outreach tied to aid clarity, transfer credit, family process, commuter logistics, and post-visit follow-up. Benchmark Key stared at her as if she had brought mud into a chapel. Count Responsible adjusted his clefts. Clickloon hovered behind him, smaller now, its glow less smug. Will this cure the deposit shortfall? Benchmark Key asked. No, Voss said. Good answer. She continued. It will give us a better chance to serve students who are already trying to decide. Better answer. I stood by the back wall, where ex-counselors and other bad weather belong. When the meeting broke, Pell found me by the door. We had such strong opens, he said. You still do. He looked confused. Now make them matter. Outside, Yield Square was washed clean in the dishonest way streets look clean after rain. The grid had moved to the gutters. It had not left the city. I crossed towards my office with my collar up. The unopened summons waited upstairs. I could feel it from the street. A black Metrocourt carriage stood by the curb. Benchmark key stepped from its shadow. "Yieldshire may survive the review," he said. That sounded almost human. Do not mistake process for affection. I tried not to mistake process for anything useful until it proves itself. His mouth curved. Good night to his yield. The name struck harder than it should have. Old names do that. They know where the ribs are. I stopped walking. Tessa, a few spaces behind me, went still. The square seemed to empty around the word. Even the rain lowered its voice. I turned back to him. Bury that name. Benchmark key held my stare for a second too long, then tipped his head and climbed into the carriage. It rolled away towards the court of metrics, wheels hissing through the water. Tessa did not ask. She knew better, or knew worse. Back upstairs, the office smelled of damp wool, overdue coffee, and court paper. The metric court summons sat under the brass lamp still unopened. I hung my coat, took off my hat, put Maribel Ortiz's note in the Yieldshire file. Case closed enough for a city that never lets anything close clean. On the shelf above my desk, between a cracked award plaque and a jar of dead fountain pens, the Melt compass gave one small twitch toward Melt Street. Case note: admitted students are not one audience. Strong open rates can show attention, anxiety, habit, or even confusion. They do not prove students know what to do. Yield work improves when a school separates admitted students by decision barriers, then give each group the right next step at the right time. Common segments include aid certainty, transfer credit, family questions, housing, and commuter logistics, visit follow-ups, academic fit, and deposit friction. In Funnel City, the numbers matter. So does the definition behind it. So does the person living beneath it. A dashboard can be accurate and still miss the student. A message can be opened and still fail to help. A deposit can be paid and still need care. The case may close, yet the record keeps talking. Until next time, keep the fire lit, keep the record honest, and remember, the official count is never the whole truth.
Rain-worried Yield Square, like a debt the sky had found, and every banner on the brickwork bled its welcome to the ground. By midnight, Yieldshire called me in with numbers dressed in green. Applications up and smiling, admits higher than we had seen. But deposits slipped through iron grates, 9 points down and hard to explain. So I lit the lamp, pulled the file, and walked the funnel in the rain. The opens looked like comfort, the clicks looked like a plan, but a glowing little dashboard does not mean you understand. They did not vanish in the rain, they did not fade from lack of care. We sent one song to every name, then wondered why they were not there. Open is not answer, click is not a plan. A student can read every word and still need a human hand. They did not vanish, they were waiting at the line. Every admit has a question, every question has a sign. I followed every footprint through the pages we had built. Cost of attendance, aid still pending, credit rules wrapped up in guilt. 71 had opened, 19 chased a link. 82 saw event reminders, still the class began to sink. need. Students looped on a transfer search for credit truth. Parents tried the portal twice. Commuters heard a housing pitch. The message had a velvet shine, a welcome dressed in campus blue. But one bright blast to all admits can miss the thing they came to do. The file called them engaged. The chart said warm and strong. But warmth can turn to silence when the answer takes too long. They did not vanish in the rain. They did not fade from lack of care. We sent one song to every name, then wondered why they were not there. Open is not answer, click is not a plan. A student can read every word and still need a human hand. They did not vanish. They were waiting at the line. Every admit has a question. Every question has a sign. The Maribel was in the notes, not missing, just unheard. She liked the tour, she liked the people, but liking is a fragile word. Do my credits count? What will I owe? Can I work on Tuesdays? When will pending move or show? She was not shopping for a slogan. She was not asking for a show. She needed numbers, name and timing, and a person who would know. So I split the city ledger by the questions in the dark. Cost, credits, parent access, parking program, schedule spark. Not by what the brochure promised, not by what the dashboard said, by the reason each good student left a message sitting unread. Make the call, hope is warm, put plain words where the portal lies. If pending means 3 business days, do not make them guess beneath the lights. A funnel is a city map, not a trophy in a frame. If you count the class by numbers, you can lose them name by name. They did not vanish in the rain. They did not fade from the lack of care. We sent one song to every name, then wondered why they were not there. Open is not answer, click is not a plan. A dashboard can glow green and still not understand. They did not vanish. They were waiting at the line. Every admit has a question. Every question has a sign. I closed the case near morning. No clean victory in the glass. Just chairs we had to clear for those still trying to reach the class. The city kept its sirens. The funnel kept its flame. I learned a clean open rate can still forget